Healthcare is one of the most valuable, yet one of the most inefficient systems on earth. A $550 billion industry built for profit, not people, where your data is sold, your access is limited, and your well-being comes second to revenue. But just as DeFi redefined ownership in finance, a new wave is coming to redefine ownership in healthcare, where people control their own data, benefit from it directly, and participate in an open, intelligent ecosystem. And that's where MotionDev comes in. But before we jump into today's interview, I'm Ali, the CEO of PAPPLE, and I'll be your host today. At PAPPLE, our mission is simple: to build where DeFi needs us most. From project incubation to portfolio optimization, we've created an all-in-one ecosystem that empowers users and builders through every stage of their on-chain journey. DeFi gave people ownership of their digital assets. But what asset is more important than your data, particularly your health data? Now, a new movement is emerging to redefine ownership in healthcare. One where people control their data, earn from it, and participate in a transparent, intelligent ecosystem. Today, we're talking to someone leading that shift, Florin, CEO of MotionDev. So the concept of MotionDev began in 2021 with Harvard-linked researchers, CryptoData's 15 engineer team that is focused on MotionDev. And obviously, CryptoData is quite a big company, so they have 15 engineers just focused on MotionDev. And you have real hardware already in testing. Now, before we unpack the tech, take us back to the start. Where did the idea come from? And when did you realize healthcare needed a new foundation? And why are you the best person to be leading this charge?
Yeah, so I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started my journey very early on, right after high school. When I was 19, I built my first startup. After that, I never looked back. I've been in tech and AI for the past 15 years. The previous company I co-founded, the last company I co-founded is called Humans.ai. I started in 2019, back when everyone wasn't so focused on AI. Right now, everyone is doing AI, but we did it when it wasn't cool. We did it when it was actually hard, and that led us to be now in a position to work with the biggest governments around the world, like the government of India, with the biggest companies at the enterprise level, like Bank of Kenya and others. So I'm in a position in which I spent a lot of time with some of the brightest minds in the space, from entrepreneurs, from developers, from engineers, both hardware and software. So that gives me the confidence that we can achieve what we set at MotionDev to do. The initial vision for MotionDev started around 2021, and it came from seeing how fragmented is the health data space, and that it's ripe for disruption. We were aware of the fact that in order to drive change in the health data sector, you need to showcase how you are capturing data and how you are encapsulating that data into Web3, right? So we just couldn't partner with another company to get their data, because it just doesn't work that way. You need to do it yourself, and you need to do the first few steps yourself to show the path yourself. So that's why we spent a lot of time in the lab, let's say, to build the best lightweight sensors that we could build in order to be worn seamlessly by the user, and we achieved that. Now we prove that you can capture medical grade data from the user, tracking each spine movement and encapsulating that into Web3 and putting that through a AI analysis system, right? So I'm very excited about that. And also in terms of support, I think it's worth mentioning that we have support of two companies, which is very, very important. We have full support of CryptoData. They are a huge company, over 100 people employed. They are allocating like an internal team of like 15 developers, like 3 for hardware and the rest software, because you actually need to write the code to interpret each hardware signal and to capture that into a backend and to send that to via a user-facing application, right? So with their support, we are building the hardware, which is already in testing, and it's already capturing the signals given to an Android application, and it works end to end. And on the AI side, we'll have the support of the previous company I co-founded, in which now I transition to, let's say, a leadership role, assisting my co-founder with the big picture and the big decisions and ideas. I'm not involved day to day at all. My sole focus is MotionDev and to drive this home and to build the future of DeSci infrastructure. So on engineering and building the product and building the applications, we have crypto data support, and they will be in with us from the very beginning. They were part in the trenches from the very beginning, which is very, very important. They know the project inside out. They created and drove a lot of innovation in it, and they're a big part of it. And humans AI comes into picture because now everything is AI, and having really, really qualitative data, then with AI, essentially, you are taking everything to the next level, and humans AI is in the best position to assist us with the latest AI technology on the market.
Perfect. So, what other opportunities are there in work? Maybe something like, can we talk about the Harvard cohort?
Yeah, definitely. I missed mentioning that actually, and that's actually the thing that I'm most excited about, because when you want to drive change in a space like decentralized science, right? We'll talk later a bit more about decentralized science because it's a big topic and it deserves its own section. But I think you need to showcase that you have very strong backing, and we are very fortunate, and we are in an amazing position to be included in a Harvard cohort. So at Harvard now, a new department is being built. It's AI for flourishing and wellness. So essentially, we will be part of the first cohort, and being part of the first cohort, as we are now the first project to be launched by you guys, we'll have a lot of say into how things are done, in the sense that we'll drive a lot of the research to be done, because the purpose of this department is to take AI flourishing to the industry level, to see the implications in the real world. And what better of a project than MotionDev, which essentially take cares of your health, and we cannot have flourishing and wellness without being healthy, right? Yeah. So essentially, it was a win-win situation with this new department created at Harvard, and we'll be driving a lot of change, let's say, and creating like research articles and how this infrastructure can be used by the other startups in the cohort and by the future startups to be accepted by Harvard.
Perfect. And my personal opinion is that I think MotionDev, right? We've had 50 applications plus before we actually decided to go with MotionDev as the first Pineapple Express launch. And I'm super excited about you guys, because I think what you guys are doing is completely different. I'm very optimistic that you guys are going to be very, very successful. So the healthcare data market alone is worth over $550 billion. And almost none of that value reaches the people generating it. It reminds me of finance before DeFi, if that makes sense. It's huge, it was opaque and controlled by a handful of centralized entities. Do you see decentralized healthcare following a similar curve, where early builders define entirely new markets?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see a parallel there. Currently, the health data market is tied around closed loops, controlled by centralized big entities like hospitals, like insurers, like data brokers, which are focused from taking anything from the user that the user generates in terms of health data without actually giving anything back. With MotionDev, we look at things to a bit different. We want to flip the script. We want to give the power back into the hands of the user, of the consumer, and we are creating an ecosystem in which the user will be at the center. They will have control over their health data. They will decide whom and which entity and when to share it with, and they will be rewarded at scale. So I think that's very, very important, and that will that encapsulated data in Web3 with sharing permissions on top, glued together with a token economy and governance. I think that's the bedrock for future DeSci, because you cannot have DeSci without proper health quality data, and that's at the core, right? And I think DeSci will be fueled by this data infrastructure tied to a very, very strong AI system network, and tied to the let's say, research centers and AI developers and Web3 developers and startup founders in order to essentially create the future of DeSci, because this is what we saw in DeFi. You saw an infrastructure, you had Aave and other players that built the first core smart contracts. Essentially, everyone then leveraged it, right? We are looking to do the same with DeSci. But because DeSci is so much more complex than DeFi, I think it's important to consider that while DeFi was, at least in the beginning, was fueled by speculation, DeSci it's actually fueled by utility, and we will see the winners by those who actually manage to create change at the industry level and create products that will help onboard users at scale and will help bring this decentralized movement to science.
So let's dive into exactly how that actually works. You've positioned MotionDev not just as a product, but as an infrastructure, right? The foundational layer for decentralized healthcare. At the heart of that system are 4 core pillars. You've got the sensors, AI, blockchain, and you've got the MDEV token, the utility token, each playing a pivotal role in how data is captured, analyzed, secured, and rewarded. Can you walk us through how those 4 elements connect? How do they actually work together to turn personal data into insight and insight into value, all while keeping ownership in the hands of the user?
Yeah, it's actually pretty simple and straightforward, and these 4 pillars are actually needed and sufficient in order to achieve our vision. So it all starts with the sensors, right? We need to be in the position to capture data from the user, to understand how to integrate that data and to feed it to an AI and to encapsulate into Web3, right? So the users wear seamlessly the sensor. The sensor capture raw data, and essentially that raw data is then encapsulated and prepared for AI training. Second, we have the AI system, right? We want to help users at scale. So we are taking raw data and live data from the hardware, and we are feeding into our AIs. So essentially, the user will get insights about their body movement, about their posture, about their recovery, about their entire, let's say, their entire body at scale. And also they will get recommendations, what they should do better, how to better rest, how to better train. So that will be very, very valuable, and that will be done by our AI system. So we have the hardware, and then we have the AI. Then we have the blockchain, and the blockchain is very, very important, because essentially you wanna capture in Web3, you wanna capture on chain that data that was provided by the user. You wanna tie that with what the AI, how the AI essentially took that data and helped the user, right? So you have these data points, these data sets, which are encapsulated onto the blockchain. The user then gain access to them and ownership over them, and also will be able to set sharing permission on the chain for researchers and AI developers and startup founders to be able to leverage that data set in their own business. So through the blockchain, we are putting the user in control over their data. Then the 4th pillar, as you very well mentioned, is the MDEV token. So in order to bring synergy and to align the interests of the user, the researcher, the AI developer, we need to glue them all together through a robust token economy. And that's where the MDEV token comes into place. Essentially, you'll be able to stake tokens, so that will bring governance from the very first point and aligning the interest of all the participants and entities into the ecosystem. When the users provide data and provide the health data and other bits of data about their life, about their wellness and their well-being, their recovery, so much more, they will earn tokens. So we align the interest of the user with the interest of the ecosystem. Then when you have researchers or AI developers looking to leverage these anonymized data sets, essentially they will pay with MDEV. So you have the full loop closed, as you very well mentioned. So we capture the data, we analyze it through the AIs, and we provide recommendation. Then all that is encapsulated into Web3, and everything is tied together to a robust token economy fueled by MDEV token.
So Florin, you've explained how MotionDev works architecturally, but what does that experience actually look like for the user? From the moment someone starts interacting with MotionDev, how does that data move through the system from motion to insight to actually rewarding them?
Yes, so it all starts with the sensors. So the user set up hardware sensors, lightware sensors on the body. They calibrate it through the app. They have to connect it to a compatible device. And then they're just starting their day and doing their stuff, right? Maybe they're training, maybe they're going to work, whatever it is. The sensors are capturing real-time health data, and they are encapsulating that data, and they are storing that data into the backend. Then all this data is funneled through our AI system, and that AI system is very robust and gives recommendation at scale. So the users will be able to know that maybe their sleep wasn't the best, or the way their body posture is while working for the past 6 hours wasn't the best, or the way their last training session goes, maybe they did something that could have been improved. The AIs will catch upon all this information and provide the really, really deep insights into the user's life. In some cases, it might even provide, potential health issues that the user doesn't even know that they have, or potential maybe impairment issues in terms of movement that the user is not aware of, right? So after this happens, all this information is encapsulated into Web3, into our blockchain, and is the first time where the user will see the reward coming into play. So all this data is captured into anonymized dataset that the user will have control and access over it, and will be able to set permissions on how AI researchers, AI developers can access it and pay for it. So essentially, the user mount the sensors get the data from the user's body physiology and body movement and everything. Then the AI gives recommendation maybe on resting, on specific pain points that there are, and all the other things regarding the user body. And then you have all this tied together into an anonymized data set, which starts earning let's say MDEV tokens and rewards from the very beginning. These rewards will come as soon as the data is encapsulated in the blockchain as the first level, and will be used for the ecosystem and for our own AI training. But down the line, these data sets can continue to earn rewards when the AI researchers, AI developers, or other entities in the ecosystem, they want to access that data and to leverage it for their own products.
I can see the use case of that, because if I was using it right now, it would probably give me a recommendation on my posture. Because I'm sitting for 30 minutes now, right? And I'm quite a heavy guy, so I can already feel my posture kind of now that you talked about posture. So I'm definitely one of the first users of MotionDev. Super excited about the product coming out. Now, from a user's perspective, then it's quite simple, right? And effortless. They don't really have to do anything. They can just continue their day to day. They do whatever they're doing, like we have in this podcast right now, and it's all kind of, as you said, captured, right? So they don't really have to do anything other than just put the sensors on them, right?
Yeah, definitely zero friction. The user shouldn't care about what's happening under the hood. They shouldn't care about how complex is the technology, how all the AIs, because it's not just one AI, right? We are talking an AI system. But there will be actually a multitude of AIs and AI agents that will work hard together in order to give all these insights and how the user could improve their life. So yeah, for the user is frictionless, is zero knowledge about anything. They shouldn't care about anything. They just mount the sensors and they will just see the change in their life that's happening in the app. It's like wearing the Aura ring. You have no idea of the tech encapsulated in the Aura and how it actually tells you how you slept, and then with the AIs okay, you can do this and that, right? The user don't care. You just put it on, and you're just enjoying the benefits of having your sleep tracked, and that you're implementing the changes. essentially we are the same, but for full body movement and physiology. You mount the sensors and you shouldn't care about what's happening underneath. But the difference between us and Hura, let's say, is that with us you are getting rewarded as well for just living your amazing life.
Yeah, that's what I was also going to say. You actually get rewarded for that, right? So also the sensors, it's not just about posture, right? It's all about the whole body. So it can be used in a multitude of use cases, but you guys actually started with the posture just to see the proof of concept, which you already have the prototype. I remember us first time when we sat, I think it was about a month ago, you showed me the prototype, and I found it quite cool, you know. I have, well, both my parents, especially more on my mother's side, genetically, they have back problems, right? So I was super intrigued in actually the vision and the mission that you guys are driving with this. And I think it's actually, as a use case, people don't realize how bad the posture is. You know, we're sitting on our desks as in Web3 all the time, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just Web3, really everybody is sitting on their phones a lot these days, right? You have social media, you're sitting on the sofa, you're watching Netflix, for example. So it's not just work, it's even our day-to-day life. If you think about it, other than sleeping, we spend probably about 80%, if not 90% of the time sitting down. So I think you guys definitely did the right move with going with the posture first, but I do remember you talking about the sensors being able to be used throughout the body and stuff like that, for athletes, for ambassadors, and that sort of stuff. So I'm really, really excited about that. Now, AI is obviously a very hot topic in Web3. You know, it has been for quite a while, and I believe Web2 it has the same hype. You know, a lot of people talk about AI. You see that with the Nvidia stock going up the roof, really just because of the AI hype and what people see in the future. I think everyone uses ChatGPT now, right? At least we do. And
you have to.
Otherwise,
you're left behind.
Exactly. And why would you want to do that? Not saying that you should run your whole company using ChatGPT, but improvements, if used correctly, you know, not just in kind of creating documentation, but also creatively, you know, you have Midjourney and that sort of stuff. So AI is getting quite big in Web 2 and Web 3 right now. And over the past few months, I think it's been over a year almost, because I remember this post specifically, there's been a bit of a shift, right? A real shift into DeSci from people like CZ, the Binance founder, which I'm following on X, and I don't use X or social media that often because I'm very in the trenches. I'm very busy building PAPPLE at this stage. But I remember him over a year ago saying that he's going into the DeSci space, and that time I didn't know too much about it. You know, I was thinking, well, DeSci, what does it really mean? And so we have CZ Binance posts in it, which intrigued me. We have leading researchers talking about it. And I feel like the DeSci season, if it's not already here, it's coming in the very near future, because healthcare is not going away, right? So for anyone new to the term, DeSci, or decentralized science, is about rebuilding how research and innovations are funded. How they're shared and how they're validated. In traditional systems, medical data and research live behind paywalls. They are locked in institutions that profit from the work of individuals, right? As you said already, the big pharma and stuff like that. DeSci kind of flips that model, and it takes your data and research and becomes an open source, verified on-chain, where contributors can be rewarded for advancing collective knowledge. And this is really why I'm really intrigued about DeSci. So most of what we're seeing right now is still early, right? We have white papers, we have concepts, we have token models. MotionDev, though, feels very tangible, especially when I sat down with you over a month ago and you showed me the sensors. I felt really intrigued in actually trying these sensors out. And obviously, we're going to a very long conversation, and a 1 hour, 2 hour in-person meeting became, I think it was 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
And, you know, just like me, you also really, you're really enthusiastic about this space.
Yeah, I'm passionate about what you're building, right? We have to.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not talking about decentralized research in theory. You're building the infrastructure that makes it possible in practice. What role does user-owned health data and MotionDev itself play in driving the next phase of DeSci?
So I think you made some very good points about DeSci, and I think the audience will appreciate your explanation of the term and how we get here. And I think CZ and other people in the ecosystem, I think they are visionaries to some extent, and I think if they are looking at DeSci already from 1 year ago or something, I think there is some value to be made there, right? And essentially that means the technology stacks are aligning and are in a position to drive change in the sense that the market is ripe for disruption, right? DeFi couldn't have happened with the core infrastructure built by Aave, Curve, Yearn, and other projects that build that core infrastructure, which essentially was the bedrock for the DeFi movement and for what happened, and it was very, very impactful. I think for DeSci will be even more impactful, and I think at the core of it, it's health data, right? And I see MotionDev at the core of it in terms of was the same as Aave was or any other big player that made that drove value was for DeFi, right? We are building core infrastructure to essentially help AI researchers and AI developers and builders of the future to give them the bedrock infrastructure in order to be able to build their own startup, right? And to build the products that drive change into the DeSci and essentially coordinate user health data, which will be encapsulated into Web3 in an anonymized form and will have sharing permissions on top to be able to access that at scale, right? Without the user permission in a specific moment, but its permission at scale, the permission was already set, and the user, as long as you are in a specific category, you will have access to that data if the category you are part of has access to that data, right? There will be no discrimination around, oh, this company, because it's so small, or this developer won't have access. No, it's essentially, it's an open ecosystem, right? And that's very, very important because essentially research and science have been behind some very, very big centralized walls, right? So I see MotionDev as the core of it to some extent because we are building core infrastructure, right? We are building and understanding how to take health data from hardware sensors that are worn and which are medical grade and that are worn for users by users, taking and encapsulating that into Web3. Right, so we understand how to do that. Also, we have really, really strong partnerships at the university and research level, working with researchers from universities like Harvard in order to understand what are their specific needs. Because you cannot have DeSci without these big research university centers, right? You cannot, because they are the biggest ones in the world, right? Harvard, Oxford, and others. So essentially, we are doing tremendous work at the infrastructure level. Then we are doing work at the research level with actual big research centers to understand how they would approach it and how they want to access it, because we see them as one of the big users of it, right? And we want to onboard them to this new infrastructure, to this new way of conducting research, because essentially DeSci is open research at scale. That's it. You don't have you are not trapped behind the closed doors and behind policies. I know, for example, that both at Harvard and at Oxford there are problems. And for example, at Oxford, a department actually died because there were some problems with payments for specific researchers, and they had a hiring freeze, right? And that's just ludicrous. So essentially, they are already seeing some problems with a centralized power in some specific hands, even at this amazing research level for these big universities. So I think it's our job to create this infrastructure to lead the development. It won't be easy, but we have to do it. Someone has to do it to lead the development into creating, let's say, the bedrock for what DeSci needs. And I think it needs health anonymized data encapsulated into Web3. I think it needs top researchers to be onboarded and to essentially use this product, and for us to learn how to create the best environment for them, and also to reward the users, right? Because they are generating the data. So the DeFi without the community, there is no DeFi. The DeSci without the community of users and patients and AI developers and everyone else and every other entity, it cannot exist. So an open economy is needed as well. So we are aligning that through the MDEV token as well. So that's how I see us being at the core of DeSci, and those are the, let's say, the core parts of data tied into a strong infrastructure, tied to a strong researcher community, tied to a strong community, everyone brought together in a closed loop by a very strong token, which will be MDEV.
Perfectly said. And this is what we also were mentioning in the beginning about the open intelligent ecosystem, right? It's really an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And it can't work without that one person within the loop, right? And so in effect, MotionDev isn't just participating in DeSci, it's powering it, if you think really about it. And you're creating the data layer that decentralized science will depend on. So that is really why at Pineapple, we felt like this partnership is inevitable, right? Because if you look at Pineapple and MotionDev side by side, both are fixing broken system built for the few. Traditional launchpads, for example, like traditional healthcare, have been closed networks, very, very close networks. And I know because I've been in the space for quite a long time, right? It's been
You've been older, you've been in the space for more time than me.
Yes, very, very long time, you know. So we are more of like the OGs almost, if you call it. A lot of launch pads, a lot of VC funding and that sort of stuff. So it's a very, very close network. And sometimes, even when you go to events, you always see the same people. You realize that the people that stay in the cycle are always the same ones. They're the ones that are profiting, just like healthcare. You know, you see the big pharma, the big industries, it's always the same ones. And they kind of branch out to different names so that people don't notice, but it's always a very, very close network. So you have insiders really at the top and users at the edge, right? And this is what I believe DeFi changed in finance and what DeSci will change in science and healthcare. So we both are building and rebuilding that. And you're doing like an open infrastructure where transparency, utility, and community drive really everything, right? As you said, with the whole loop system. What convinced you that Pineapple Express was the right ecosystem to launch with?
So I've been in the space not as early as you, but since early 2017, shortly after I think ICO for Ethereum was like late 2016 or something, if I'm not mistaken.
That's quite early still.
Yeah, so immediately after the ICO, I've because essentially that was the first moment in time where you could actually building functionality on top of a reliable blockchain. Being in the space since then, I've seen all the metas, all the types of approaching a launch from the ICO. For the project I launched during that time, we did an ICO, right? We wrote an amazing white paper. It was all about helping the community of developers to assist them with the best Ethereum and Solidity tools. And then for sure more launchpads appeared, and let's say between 2019 2020 it was all about, oh, now we are doing an IDO, right? So essentially the launchpads gained even more traction. So that's good, and I think it was needed in the market. But they approach things they approach things fundamentally different the way you guys approach things, and I was actually very pleasantly surprised by how you guys approach things. So from my experience in the past, most of them, if not everyone, is just giving you a checklist, do this, and that. They have a smart contract suite that you are going to go through each of it. The support wasn't the biggest, right? With you guys, it's fundamentally different. It's that 180 degrees. You are in the trenches with us. You are amazing CMO, wrote over 100 pages go-to-market strategy and aligned and simplified everything and helped us really provide the vision and the core and everything that we are doing in even simpler and more cohesive form to the user, right? And that's very different. That level of support, I think it's unprecedented in the market, and I think no one else is doing and is approaching the way you guys are approaching. So on the one hand, it was full support and backing from the Pineapple team, right? And second, it was your ethos and your vision. You are not about you, particularly Ali or your other team members, making a profit. You made Pineapple for the community and for the betterment of the community, and we saw that as well. So essentially, you are aligning the interest of the project that you are launching. You want the projects, you are vested in their success. If the projects are successful, for example, if MotionDev, which are fortunate enough to be the first project to launch on Pineapple Express, if we are successful, Pineapple is successful, right? If Pineapple is successful the way you build it, and actually that's something that really excited me, because I'm all for the community. That's why we are doing a fair launch. was you align the interest of pineapple success equal community success, equal community value. So essentially aligning this interest and giving back to the community, giving back to the stakers, to the early supporters, to everyone that backed you from the very beginning, I think you align the interest, and I think the community will see that. And I think that's what made you guys very, very different. Being in the trenches with us, having a strong ethos and vision on how to align to the community. So these were the first two things. And the third thing is like the product too that you have. You are a one-stop shop for launches. Beyond having a great team, right? Which is very important. Having a great vision and ethos, it's very important. But then you have the product suite to support that. You have the Pineapple Express, which is the launchpad, right? You have the JuiceBot, which helps and support projects to engage the community, to tell them when a new buy is going through and whatnot. And then you have the Pineapple Academy to help and to give this type of content and much more to the community to help them getting a deep dive into the projects that Pineapple is launching and what Pineapple is doing and whatnot. And last and not least, to complete this product suite, you have the Pineapple Dex, where they could actually buy the token after the launch and they could get involved and essentially having a full product suite. I think it's very, very important. So I think those were the three core things that made us essentially decide to work with you guys. And to be fully transparent, I don't think we would have considered working with anyone else.
I really appreciate those kind words. So, and this is what Pineapple Express is really about, right? To take projects and good founders and CEOs that have real technology and utility and really support them kind of to take them to the next level, right? So, Florin, you've already covered so much ground, and this is just day one, right, of the announcement. Prototypes, AI training, data labeling, partnerships. Let's look a bit forward now. Right, because we've talked about the past and everything. We've talked about the present right now. Let's look a bit forward. Specifically 6 months. What does the next 6 months look for MotionDev? And what key milestones should the community expect as we move from prototype to protocol?
Until now, we completed the foundation stage. We proved that you could build a very lightweight medical grade sensor that could get a real-time signal from the body to encapsulate that into an application and to move that and have it in Web3. And we are moving now towards phase one, right? So in the next couple of months, we will be working very hard to have the hardware version in miniaturized form with wireless connection and everything that can be worn by the user. That's first on our list. The second, it ties to the data. The data is very important. And actually something that should have been mentioned before is the fact that for sure we'll rely on AI, but we will rely on specialized doctors and medical professionals to label and annotate data in order to create the best data set that we can do in order to train our own AIs and our own AI system. So I think that's second on the list and is very, very important. And third is signal processing, is essentially to take all that signal or that data and to move it into Web3 and to encapsulate it with perfect sharing permission in order to allow users and to give users the possibility to be deciders of how their data is shared and used. Also, we will be launching data for token pilots, which is very important. We will allow users to upload their own data, which has nothing to do with data gathered by our hardware. The data that they currently generate in other applications, maybe in Apple Health, maybe through Aura, maybe with Whoop, maybe with other let's say hardware that they're connecting with. They're able to export that data and to fit it into our system and get rewarded by tokens. So essentially, this will help users get the feeling of what it will be like for them to earn tokens just sharing their data. Also, we are looking to onboard ambassadors in order to help us tackle different markets and different verticals that where our product will let's say address specific challenges are either in body posture or in body movement or in performance. We are looking to enter the athletes market as well. So we are looking to onboard athletes and ambassadors in order to showcase how a product like MDEV can support them in their day-to-day life and when they are really training and going hard for that next PR or whatever they want to achieve. And also we are looking to include or to showcase the first version of how we envision staking and governance in order to align the community and the vision and the execution from the very beginning. So I think those are the first things that we are focused on in the phase one. This will put us in a very good position to transition to phase two. And phase two is essentially where users will first get their hands on the hardware. We are calling phase two the private alpha. So essentially, if you are a member of the community, if you've been with us from the very first get-go, if we supported us, if you were part of the TGE, if you're part of the launch, if you're on the whitelist, you will have a first row seat to this phase two. You'll gain access to the private alpha, so you'll be among the first users to actually use our product. In the private alpha, we are very excited that we will have our hardware even more refined. We will present the first iteration of the anonymized datasets. It will be the first time when researchers will be able to access these anonymized datasets and to make use of them. And it will be the first time where users will interact with their own AI and will receive recommendations and will receive specific suggestions on how they should improve their life or their wellness or their movement or their specific training. So this will be the first view of the application. And also we will have the possibility for the users to see how their data is used and with the sharing permissions, and that will be tied for them to be able to see, oh, I have this amount of tokens, I gain this amount of tokens for sharing my data with the ecosystem, and I'm supporting the DeSci movement, I'm supporting this, and actually this is a requirement for me to be able to get these AI recommendations, because the AI, in order to be able to help me, they need my data. Right, so the users will be able to see all this in the application, including the MDEV tokens that they earn from their data being used, how their data is used, and so much more. So this is the phase two, which we call it private alpha. Then we transition to phase three, which we call it public beta. So that will be the first big launch into the market, into the public. Then everyone will be able to access the product. We will refine the hardware from the previous iteration to the public beta, so essentially it will be an even improved product. We will launch for the first time the data wallet, so the users will be able to see everything that I mentioned in the private alpha version, will be able to see in a very cohesive way how it's tied to the data that they have, to the anonymized data set they provide, because they will provide data at scale. Each day they are using the hardware, they will continue to provide data. So essentially having that in a data wallet that you are able to see, and you are able to see how much tokens you are earning for each specific, let's say, value that you are bringing into the ecosystem. And now you are part of this value chain where data gets transformed into insights, and insights are transformed into value, and that value goes back to you and also goes back into the ecosystem, supporting this DeSci movement. So that's happening in the phase three, which we call it open beta. And also we are looking forward to all these ambassadors and athletes that we are onboarding already. Starting phase one, we will continue to onboard them in phase two, but essentially in phase three, we will see the real value that they bring into the ecosystem and to the community, because it will be the first time where the world will see, okay, so this is how the first iteration of DeSci looks like. This is how the infrastructure should look like. Essentially, in phase three, in open beta, we will see the bedrock infrastructure for future DeSci. How it looks like in terms of aligning the partners, the ambassadors, the athletes, which are very important because they will be the end user at the highest level. Right under them it will be the regular users, and which are very important to be part, because essentially you cannot have a decentralized community without the community part. And then you have the researchers, Harvard, Oxford, or any other big research center in the world, together working hand in hand with AI researchers and AI developers and startup founders. And then you have the infrastructure and the blockchain, where everything is tied to Web3, and everything is connected, and everything is brought together by the MotionDev token. So it will be the first iteration seeing the full open ecosystem in full force. It will be the first time when you see how a DeSci strong infrastructure product looks like. And beyond that, we are looking to continue working very hard with researchers on the research side to publish papers and to continue supporting them, because they are a big part. You cannot have DeSci without the scientists, right? They're a big part. But also you cannot have a DeSci without the community. And we see that community split between regular users, between athletes, between ambassadors, because they will all bring their part to the betterment of the community. So this is the vision for the next few months, and how these few months essentially put us in the best position to succeed for the private alpha and for the public beta. So just to bring everything and to tie everything together, the sequence is simple over the next few months. We have the TGE, then we have staking, then we have data pilots, then we have governance. And this will put us in the best position to go into private alpha and then public beta. That's about it.
Oof. Florin, man, you've said a lot in this episode. I think the community are super excited for this one, but also they will really understand what MotionDev is about, which I think is the whole point of us really sitting here and talking, right? So I really appreciate that. Now, if I could squeeze you a little bit more now, Florin, I know you've already said quite a lot. But we have a bit of a tradition here at Pineapple. With every interview, every AMA, every fireside chat podcast kind of style interview, we have something for the community always in the end, right? And they're always excited to hear something that we might have not wanted to say, so they're very used to that. And almost it became like a kind of traditional thing where we're guaranteeing them that. Is that something I can kind of squeeze you to do? Talk a little bit there. So what can you share today that you haven't shared yet today? Like some alpha?
So I think one of the aspects I'm most excited about is actually the us working with one of the Harvard departments that we will have a big impact in, the department for AI flourishing. So I'm most excited about that. I know I already talked about that, so there is no alpha in that. But we are actually looking to support that department in supporting their postdocs. So working very close with them, and then maybe sponsoring a few of them in order to have like a very, very strong tie with them. This is something that was already kind of discussed and agreed. We are looking maybe to transition that department to Oxford as well, and to create a similar department, like a sister department in Oxford, because Harvard and Oxford are two of the biggest research centers in the world, and us being at the forefront and powering the new future movement of DeSci is important, not having only the infrastructure, but having the partnerships and the connections of the world of where the science happens, right? So that's very, very important, and I'm very excited about that. And I am very confident if after we manage to, let's say, bring these partnerships and us being part of the first cohort at Harvard in this new department and all that, I think it's just a matter of time and execution for us to work very, very close with these amazing universities. And I think once we've, let's say, made enough strides in the market, I think companies like Google will be looking at us with rose-tinted glasses, and will be willing to partner with us. For sure, it's something that's in the works. I have a very, very strong network that I built over the past 6 years in London since I started Humans as well, and Humans will actually help a lot MotionDev with the network that we build at Humans. So essentially everything is up for grabs, providing that we bring value, right? And that's something I'm very, very passionate about. So I think between the work that we'll be doing with Harvard, with potentially helping bridging that gap to have that sister department in Oxford, doing the job, being in the trenches, working really hard, it's just a matter of time when a company like Google will look at us. We are also looking at partnerships with big companies like Whoop. I was personally supposed to be part of the team at the very, very beginning when there were just 3 people and they were called My Bobo. And I had a long discussions with Will, which is an amazing founder, and I told them it's just a matter of time and hard execution, and for them to have success. And I'm really happy looking back now on how great they executed. So I think a potential partnership down the line with a giant like Whoop, it's why not in the cards? It's just a matter for us to choose our battles carefully.
Exciting, exciting. So thank you so much for coming to this episode, the first episode of this podcast, and explaining to the community what MotionDev is about. Is there anything else, like a little short outro, that you would like to say to the community?
So I'm very excited to be part of part of this DeSci movement. I'm very grateful, Ali, to you and to the Pineapple team, that you guys are working in the trenches. By the way, guys, they are working Sunday to Monday. They don't have any
No time off.
no time off.
No time off.
No time off. No plan B. This is the vision. This is the way to go. So yeah, I'm very grateful. I told you many times I'm not taking all the help for granted, and we are very appreciative at MotionDev for all the support that you guys are providing. And I think it's important to mention that your support won't stop at TGE. You are actually will continue to support us down the line.
Definitely.
Which is refreshing for the community and is essentially making sure that we are a success on the long term. And we are here to stay. We are here to drive the change. The TG and what happens over the next couple of months is just the very beginning. We are in a very good position to succeed, considering how much work we put into essentially writing the software, having the hardware ready, and all that. Now it's just a matter of executing it. We learned a lot of lessons in the past few years working on MotionDev, and I'm very grateful to have a big company like Crypto Data essentially in the trenches as well, and they were part from the very beginning. They're an amazing company. Having a company like Humans to support us on the AI side, because now everything is AI. So I think we have everything figured out in terms of having the big pillars, like the partners that you have, like the knowledge in the market, and in Web3 that you guys are supporting us, having the partners on the let's say research side, like in the likes of Harvard and potentially Oxford as well. I think we have all the big pillars that we need. Now it's just a matter of being in the trenches and executing day in, day out, Monday to Sunday, no days off, until we make this a success and we become the future of infrastructure for the DeSci movement.
Thank you very much, Florin, and I'm looking really forward to a lot more interviews, AMA styles, within your own community, but within Pineapple as well. I hope you all take a note of what you have just heard. It's not often you see a company of this scale preparing to launch in a fair, transparent, and community-driven way, without VCs pulling the strings, but with the people at the center. That principle sits at the core of what MotionDev is building. A system designed to give control back to individuals from how their data is used to how value is distributed. And it's exactly why they've chosen to launch through Pineapple Express. Because we share that belief in fairness, decentralization, and delivery that actually serves the community. Over the coming weeks, you see and learn more about MotionDev every single day, from technology deep dives to tokenomics and partnerships. And very soon, you get what everyone's waiting for, the official launch date for the MDEV token. So keep your eyes open, stay close, and get ready to be part of the next frontier in decentralized healthcare.